The title of our lesson is Multiplying and Dividing Monomials. Okay, let's look at our first essential question before we get started. Your essential question today is, how do I multiply and divide powers? Okay. Look at page 23 in your book. We're going to talk about spiders in North America. Spiders in North America can range from 1 millimeter to 7.6 centimeters in length. Use the table to see how other metric measurements of length are related to millimeters. Okay, so we know 1 is 10 to the 0 power. A centimeter is 1 times 10. Well, what is 1 times 10? 10. How would you write that with a power? 10 to the first power. This would be 10 to the 0 power. A decimeter is 10 times 10. Well, 10 times 10 is 100. 10 to the first power times 10 to the first power would be 10 to the second power. So you would write 100 as 10 to the second power. A meter is 100 times 10. So we have 10 to the second times 10 to the first. 100 times 10 is 1,000. So that would be 10 to the third power. A decameter is 1,000 times 10. So we take 1,000, which is 10 to the third, times 10, which is 10 to the first. 10 to the third times 10 to the first is 10 to the fourth. Okay, a hectometer is 10,000 times 10. Well, we know 10,000 is 10 to the fourth, times 10 to the first would be 10 to the fifth. So that would be 100,000. And then a kilometer is 100,000 times 10. We know 100,000 is 10 to the fifth. We're going to take that times 10 to the 1. 10 to the fifth times 10 to the 1 would be 10 to the 6. Look at the entries in the last column. What do you observe about the exponents of the factors and the exponents of the products as they enter, as each entry? So 10 to the 0, 10 to the 1, 10 to the 1 times 10 to the 1 is 10 to the 2. 10 to the 2 times 10 to the 1 is 10 to the 3. 10 to the 3 times 10 to the 1. What pattern do you see? Did you see that the exponent of the product is the sum of the exponents? Did you see that? Okay, so say we had a megameter, 10 times 10, okay, 100 million times 10, or, there we go, expand the pattern to write this number. It would be 10 to the 9th. Let's try some of these ourselves. You need to know what a monomial is. A monomial is a number, a variable, or a product of a number and one or more variables. 3y, 2x, 5x squared, those are all monomials. Okay, to multiply powers with the same base, add their exponents. So 2 to the fourth times 2 to the third equals 2 to the 4 plus 3, or 2 to the 7th. A to the m times, that box shouldn't be there, it should be a multiplication sign. A to the n is a to the m plus n. That's how you would write it with a variable. Let's try some. Simplify using law of exponents. We have 5 squared times 5 to the first. We usually don't write 5 to the first. When you see a number by itself, it has an exponent of 1. So 5 squared times 5, that would be 5 squared times 5 to the 1. So you'd add the 2 plus 1, you get 5 to the third, and if you multiplied it out, 5 times 5 times 5, 5 times 5 is 25, 25 times 5 is 125. Pause the video and try this one yourself. Seven to the 6 times 7 to the 1 would be 7 to the 7th. Simplify using law of exponents. We have c to the 3rd times c to the 5th. You would have c to the 3 plus 5, which would be c to the 8. And remember, we're combining exponents with a common base. So you have r to the 6 times r to the 4th. Pause the video and try it yourself. Yes, r to the 10th. Wow, let's look at this one. We have 3x squared times 4x to the 5th. And this 3 is negative. Okay, so we're going to rewrite that. We have a negative 3 times a negative 4, or a positive 4, and we have an x squared times x to the 5th. So negative 3 times 4 would be negative 12. X to the 2 plus 5 would be x to the 7th. So your correct answer would be negative 12 x to the 7th. Try this one. Negative 7x squared times 11x to the 4th. So you know your negative 7 would be times 11 times, you have x squared times x to the 4th. So negative times 11 would be negative 77. X squared times x to the 4th would be x to the 6th. Now let's talk about quotient. If you add your exponents when you multiply, you are going to subtract them when you divide, if they have the same base. 3 to the 7th divided by 3 to the 3rd would be 3 to the 7 minus 3, or 3 to the 4th. A to the m divided by a to the n would be a to the m minus n. Let's try some. 4 to the 8th divided by 4 to the 2nd. So this would be 4 to the 8 minus 2. It's a minus, which is 4 to the 6th. Which would, if you put in your calculator, would be 4,096. Try this one on your own. 6 to the 12th divided by 6 squared. Correct. It would be 6 to the 12 minus 2, which would be 6 to the 10th. This one's hard to read. N to the 9th over divided by n to the 4th. So n to the 9th divided by n to the 4th would be n to the 9 minus 4, which is n to the 5. Can we go any farther? No, because we don't know what n is. A to the 14th divided by a to the 8th. So this would be a to the 14 minus 8, which would be a to the 6. Now, we have same bases here, here, and here. Okay, there's a couple ways to do these problems. So I have 2 to the 5th divided by 2 to the 2nd, which would give me 2 to the 3rd. 5 minus 2 is 3. Times 3 to the 5th divided by 3 to the 4th, which would just be 3, times 5 to the 2nd divided by 5 to the 1, which would be 2 minus 1, which would be 5. So let's take 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So we know this is 8 times 3 times 5. 8 times 3 is 24. Now I have to take 24 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 11, 12. I get 120. Let's see what the book got. Try this one on your own. Look at it as 3 problems. Pause the video and try it by yourself. Compare it to someone in the room, and then compare it, show the substitute. Hawaii's total shoreline is about 2 to the 10th miles long. New Hampshire's is about 2 to the 7th. About how many times longer is Hawaii than New Hampshire? So you're going to divide 2 to the 10th divided by 7. So that would be 2 to the 10th. So if you see how many times longer, you're thinking divide, which is 2 to the 3rd. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So Hawaii's shoreline is, this is a terrible answer again, is 8 times longer than New Hampshire's. You should be more specific in your answers than the book. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, and 1 kilometer is equal to 10 to the 6 millimeters. How many centimeters are in 1 kilometer? Did you take 10 to the 6 divided by 10? You should have got 10 to the 5 centimeters.